Hey everyone, I want to share a clip with you today that I think is more relevant now than even when it was recorded. And it was recorded 9 years ago. This is Ayaan Hirsi being interviewed by Peter Robinson at the Hoover Institution way back in 2017. Now, just to review, she was born in Somalia, raised as a Muslim, suffered greatly under Islam. She fled to the West. She became a Dutch member of parliament. She left Islam, and she has spent her life ever since warning the West about Islam, about political Islam. And she's done this at enormous personal cost. She lives under death threat. So when she talks about the question of whether the West has the will to win, the will to survive, she's not speaking theoretically. So I'm going to stop the clip a few times to comment because there are things she says here that deserve a moment to think about. Okay, so let's hit it. Here we go. And
Soviet communism lasted 7 decades.
Yeah.
Islam has been with us for 14 centuries.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic because we have defeated in the past these ideologies you mentioned, communism and National Socialism, that were in some ways more determined, modern, fighting with modern tools. And Islam has been around for a very long time, but the jihadis, the political Islam of our day, buys weapons from us, takes innovation from us, needs us to destroy us. And so in some ways, I think we should be more optimistic because A, we've done it before.
They can't destroy us without our permission.
They can't destroy us without our permission. They can't destroy us without us letting them destroy us.
okay. She says it twice. They can't destroy us without our permission. They can't destroy us without us letting them destroy us. Now, this is huge. It's a very big idea. But I want to add a layer to it because from a biblical perspective, this isn't just a political observation, right? It's almost a theological observation, right? The entire biblical framework is built on the concept of God empowering us, of human agency. That's what covenant is all about, that we have to act to redeem ourselves. God doesn't redeem us and we're just passive in this. Okay, we have to take a step. Every moment in the biblical narrative where God shows up is there's always a demand upon human beings to risk and to show courage and to use their human agency. And then God, of course, helps. But human beings have to choose to stand up. They have to choose to lay it on the line. God has given us everything we need to win this, the ideas, the institutions, the track record, the resources. What he hasn't done, and he won't do, is show the courage for us, is make the choice for us. And that's the point. That's the point she's making. The choice has to be ours. They can't destroy us without our permission. Now, it also rings true what she's saying about equipment and things like that, or just, the whole fear of, look what happens every time a Western army comes actually into kinetic confrontation with one of these Muslim groups or states or whatever it is. Go back to the Iraq War and Israel with its enemies. The only thing holding back Israel from completely decimating its enemies is all sorts of reasons for restraint. The military capabilities are unquestionably more powerful. Even Israel against Iran. Iran was this superpower compared to Israel's, money and weapons and missiles and everything they're doing. And look what Israel did in June in the 12-day war, even before the B-2 bomber attacks, right? Meaning if you think about what the West's capabilities are, there's no real threat. Like, no one just evaluating the capabilities in all these different ways would say that it's a threat. So you put that together with the point I was making about the biblical mindset is that God basically is looking at us saying, hey, look, you have everything you need. The question of whether you prevail or you don't prevail as a civilization, as a value system, is entirely up to you. It's entirely up to us. There's no excuse to say that the enemy was strong. We are stronger. It's a fascinating idea worth thinking about. Okay, let's see some more.
And even if you just put the two ideas side by side, one thing, I was talking to Andy McCarthy, the former prosecutor.
Yes.
And he was as a prosecutor, he's really tried to fight this fight within the justice system. And he's come to the conclusion, the biggest part of this battle should be won in the cultural arena, the battlefield of ideas. And if you take it there, I think that we can easily win if only we would stand up for our own ideas.
Okay, this is huge, because what she's saying, and I want to be really clear about this, is that the problem is not that we lack good arguments. The problem is that we lack the courage to make them, the courage to stand up and say, yes, our civilization is superior. Yes, it is more moral. Yes, it is worth defending unapologetically. Like, that shouldn't be controversial, but it is somehow. Like, look where we are. A civilization built on the dignity of every human being that's what we stand for, right? Unlimited government, on freedom of conscience, on the rule of law. And compare that to a system that assigns people different rights based on their gender or their religion, dhimmi status, everything that you have coming from Islam. We should be able to say very clearly and proudly which one is objectively better. The reluctance to say that out loud, the flinching, the hedging, that's the problem she's identifying, and she's right. But the battlefield of ideas is one we can easily win, but we just have to be willing to show up, for the fight.
If you're promoting Sharia and you make it explicit, you're selling Sharia to someone like me. I left Islam, so for those who leave Islam is the death penalty. I'm a woman. You want to sell Sharia to me? It puts me in a position of chattel. You're trying to sell Sharia to a Jewish person or a Christian. They've been relegated to the status of dhimmis or second class, third class rate. And then you show people the places on this planet today in 2017 where Sharia is reality. And you see a lot of pain and suffering, discrimination, divisiveness, poverty. So it's not a difficult idea, a difficult philosophy to defeat. It's just that we're not interested for some reason. We don't get it yet. But once we get there, all of our ideas, and I know most people here today feel a sense of shame when they talk about Western civilization, but the ideas and principles of Western civilization, with all their weaknesses and with all their pathologies, are far superior to anything that Sharia has to offer.
Mm-hmm. So many people in the West profess, when asked the simple question, they profess faith in God. And then there's many who go to church, they go to synagogue, they say they believe in God. But genuine faith in God has to manifest as confidence in God's principles as laid out in the Bible, right? You can't say you believe in the God of the Bible and then be ashamed of the civilization that God's Bible built, right? Judeo-Christian civilization. I prefer to just call it biblically based Western civilization, right? With all of its imperfections. It's the greatest attempt in human history to build a society around those biblical principles, right? Like, the United States of America, human dignity, limited authority, individual conscience, moral accountability. Right? If you believe that those principles come from God, then there's a confidence in them. That's not arrogance, it's faithfulness. It's confidence in the truths of God. And what Ayaan Hirsi Ali is observing, she doesn't bring up God in this, but she's saying, as someone who came to the West as an adult, is that the people who should be most confident, those who have faith, aren't showing that confidence. And so when we look at Sharia law, of course what we have is so far superior. What does Sharia law offer people? And people of the West who are being taken in by a tolerance for Sharia, it should be easy to make the case that the Western value system is superior to Sharia and that Sharia is wrong. She's pointing to the problem of our societal cultural confidence, but in our faith. That's why I'm saying it goes back to faith. That's why I started this comment by talking about faith in God. What is real faith in God? And that's what I think has happened here. As we move away from a real faith in God, like I often think that it says on the American dollar, "In God we trust." And if you ask your average American, "Do you believe in God?" they'd say, "Yeah." But what if you ask the follow-up question? Instead of saying, "Do you believe in God?" you say to your average American, "Do you believe that God is involved on a day-to-day basis in managing your life, in managing the life of society? Do you believe that God, whoa. Suddenly, I don't know if you'd get the high percentage as when you just ask people if they believe in God. Because when you believe in God, when a society really comes from a place of strong faith, then they also have the confidence in the values that come with that faith. So these things are all connected. I hope I'm making myself clear. These things are all connected. That's why this is all, to me, the decline in traditional faith in God that we've seen in the post-World War II era goes hand in hand with the lack of moral confidence, cultural confidence in our moral system is what I mean. Sorry if I'm being a little convoluted. And then you have Israel, right, where Israel is is an increasingly traditional society, moving more and more towards biblical faith in the last couple of generations, and a politically conservative society, a society that also has fought these forces. And I think that's one of the reasons that Israel is surviving and thriving right now. We're going to have a little bit more on that in an upcoming comment here on this video. Let's watch some more.
We shouldn't be embarrassed about saying that. That should be where we begin the conversation.
Last question. This time I'm going to quote President Trump. This is Donald Trump speaking this month in Warsaw. Quote, "The fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive.
Yeah.
Do we have the confidence in our values to defend them at any cost? Do we have enough respect for our citizens to protect our borders? Do we have the desire and the courage to preserve our civilization in the face of those who would subvert and destroy it?" Close quote. Does the West have the will to survive? Is that the fundamental question?
That's a fundamental question, yeah. That is the fundamental question. He said these words in Poland, and they were well received. And what I've noticed, I came to the West in 1992, so I'm a newcomer. But
you're doing fine.
Thank you. In this short period, what I notice is those to whom freedom came late, they are the ones who are willing to fight.
The Poles having suffered for 4 decades.
The Hungarians,
yes.
the Eastern Europeans. For them it is not some vague story in history. They still know what it was like to be under the Soviet Union, to be behind that Iron Curtain, to have no freedom. They know what a totalitarian ideology is. They recognize it and they're willing to fight for the core principles of freedom. Wow.
She's pointing to something really important here. And I was actually just saying to my wife the other day, I was reflecting on Israeli society. And of course, we don't ask for wars. No one wants a war. But there's something that happens to a nation, to a country, to a society, when they fight for survival together, a social cohesion, a clarity about what matters, kind of like there's a shared focus, this shared sense of purpose that peacetime and prosperity don't really produce in the same way at all. And the Eastern Europeans she's talking about here, the Poles, the Hungarians, they have it because they earned it the hard way, right? Israelis also have that for the same reason. But the post-World War II West, which has gone like 80 years without an existential threat on their home soil, and you can see the erosion of that cohesion, right? It's not just political disagreement. It's the erosion of the shared sense of being a people, of having something worth defending together, that a civilization that was inherited, was paid for by people who sacrificed and showed courage, right? That sense is fading. And when it fades, the will to defend it fades. I hope that made sense. Let's watch to the end.
And that's what Western civilization has granted to a certain degree to human beings, and has promoted and has established systems that protect that individual freedom. They know that. The Northern Europeans, to some degree Americans, who have been free for so long that they don't know what freedom is anymore. They are the ones who are in this, I think, moral twist about and wringing their hands and thinking, how can we defend Western civilization? I mean, what is Western civilization? Is it white supremacism or is it something else? And if our leaders, if our elites cannot tell the difference between white nationalism and Western civilization, or what it is that makes America great again, then I think we're in big trouble. We'll have to depend on those Eastern Europeans to defend us.
That's this really is the last question. I kept saying last question. This one really is the last question.
Yeah.
If the question is whether the West has the courage to defend itself, has the will to defend itself, then you've just identified the central sub-question within that question, and that is, will the United States of America stop wringing its hands?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I hate to say it, but something has to happen to make us focus and to stop wringing our hands. Just turn on the news and the first thing you hear is about North Korea testing missiles that could hit us. Then there's the whole radical Islamic phenomenon. There's this rise of China, which is, again, in its expression, anti-Western. And looking at all of that, I think it is, I don't know, I feel a sense of urgency. I hope that you feel a sense of urgency, that we have something to defend. But unfortunately, and this is not my analysis, this is what I hear from other people. This is Americans first try all the bad options, and they try all before, and then the very last one will be. Now, if that's the case, I hope we have time this time. Yeah.
Wow. Something will have to happen to make us focus, right? She said that 9 years ago. And then on October 7th, 2023, we got something that made us focus, that brought things into focus. At least we should have, or partially. It wasn't just the attack, right? It's what happened to the West. Look at what happened to the West in the wake of October 7th. The entire Western world changed. Because within days, the streets of London, Paris, New York, the university campuses all across the West were filled with people celebrating, justifying, explaining away the massacre of Jewish families, and the media, the professors, the journalists, the student organizations, right? The whole Red-Green Alliance, political Islam suddenly became so much more front and center worldwide, not just with what Israel's doing. And meanwhile, you have Israel trying to defeat it, and the whole world kind of getting really uncomfortable if Israel drives too close to actually defeating evil, to actually vanquishing it, to actually bringing it to its knees. We can't have that. Right? The Red-Green Alliance has this shared enemy, the West, biblical civilization, both the atheist progressive left and political Islam. Right? They want to destroy it. They want to destroy biblically grounded, liberty-loving Western values that Ayaan Hirsi has been describing for this whole video, this whole 6.5-minute video. And she's asking, does the West have a will to survive? Does it have a will to win? Are we okay with that? Are we okay actually having victory? Well, for victory, you need courage and confidence. You need to actually believe that you are in the right and that you must defeat evil. We have to be willing to say clearly, without apology, what we are for, what we are defending, who we are. And she's optimistic. She says the West is going to rediscover itself. It has to. And listen, as a person of biblical faith, we know that the story ends well. The good guys win. The question is how bloody it is on the way to that. And it's hard to see. There's some corners of the West that they ain't looking like they're winning. But you know, and this is really a call to Christians. There aren't enough Jews in the world to win this fight. We could be victorious for ourselves, but to win the global battle for civilization, for biblical values, Christians need to step up. I think that's what she's pointing to here. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you found this video useful. Please drop a comment. This is an important conversation. I want to hear your thoughts on this. And I read as many of the comments as I can. You know, I really do. And I appreciate all of them. And I appreciate all of you for liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all that. And I'm grateful to you for helping grow the channel. These are big issues. We have to have these conversations, folks. We have to talk about these things. But she raised some very big issues here. Bottom line is, saying they're scary, they're invading, it's all up to us. I mean, that's just deflecting. It's all up to us. We have what we need as a society, as a civilization, to win. We have what we need to win. We just need the will, the courage to stand up and do it. God bless.